Valorant is one of the most popular PC games today, pulling in and maintaining millions of players daily. I'm sure you already know what Valorant is if you clicked on the video, but for those that don't know, Valorant is a tactical first-person shooter made by Riot Games released back in 2020. Ever since the game came out of beta, there were rumors of a console port coming sometime in the future. While we do have confirmation that a mobile version of Valorant is in the works, there's still no news of a console version of Valorant coming soon. But at this point, it got me wondering, would Valorant work on console? And if it did work, would the console community accept it? I know that last part sounds like a really dumb question, but I'll explain it later. Let's start with whether or not Valorant would work on console in the first place. When you think of console gamers, what do you think most of them will play with? Controllers. Even though shooters on consoles have gotten a lot better over the most recent years, Valorant isn't one of those games. Valorant is based on an old style of tactical shooter with spray patterns, sluggish movement, with an extremely low time to kill, just like Counter-Strike. These kinds of games don't really work well on consoles with controllers due to both hardware and software limitations. You might be yelling at your screen, what about Rainbow Six Siege? That works on console. You're right, but Siege is a bit different. It's basically Counter-Strike with modern shooting mechanics and abilities. Hip firing works like modern hip firing, meaning the bullets will just travel randomly in a certain area on your screen. Aiming down sights is like modern aiming down sights, where it basically becomes a laser beam and all you have to do is make sure the crosshair is on the target. All the spray patterns are just the guns shooting up vertically with a few guns leaning to the left and right occasionally. And while utility does exist, it doesn't necessarily require a keyboard and mouse to use them effectively. I'm not saying the game is easy because of it, I'm just saying it's doable with a controller. Valorant is not Siege. While movement is still sluggish and there are abilities, the abilities aren't as impactful as Siege's, and most of your time and effort is going to be put towards fighting your opponents with guns. This might not sound like a big deal at first until you factor in the gunplay. When firing from the hip, the gun is pretty accurate for the first 3 shots, but beyond that point, it's somewhat random. For the most part, guns sway side to side after spraying for a while, making precise aim even more important. What makes things worse for controller players is that the crosshair doesn't follow where the bullets are going all the time. After the first few shots, the bullets start to fly off the crosshair into the air, meaning it's no longer just about keeping the crosshair on someone, as it just doesn't work that way all the time. It's not that hard to handle with a mouse since it's basically drawing with a mouse on a mouse pad, but controllers aren't that precise thanks to thumbsticks, meaning your aim is just going to be all over the place. If your gunplay doesn't feel good to play on a peripheral you're targeting, the game isn't going to be fun. We saw this issue with the console version of CSGO. Actually, hold on a second, what's that? Oh. They never knew that happened, huh? Okay. Let me give you guys a quick history lesson for those that never knew this ever happened. You may know CSGO as one of the biggest PC games of all time. What you may not know is that the original plan of CSGO was to have it released as a console port of CS Source, which was previously the biggest FPS on PC. At some point, the developers Valve decided to make it a separate game and release it on PC as well to hopefully revive the scene. On the PC side of things, they succeeded. You could even say that they did too good of a job. I mean, hell, look at their tournaments. They're bigger than some of the American sports you see on TV today. On console, however, the game died within the first year. A YouTuber named Casey made an entire video on CSGO's console ports and their downfall, so I'll leave a link to her video down in the description below. In summary, the game died due to lack of support and the gameplay not working well with a controller. A first-person shooter that requires pinpoint accuracy just doesn't work well with controllers, especially the type of precision CSGO and Valorant requires. And the only time it's worked in the past is when they made a completely different version of the game with more generous hitboxes and more fluent gunplay. But in Valorant's case, I'd imagine most people would want to play the Valorant us PC gamers know and not necessarily a remake of some sorts. Plus, making a new version of Valorant eliminates the possibility of any form of crossplay, which is something Riot seems to want in their games when it comes to other platforms that isn't on the PC. But let's just say by some miracle, the game works on console, the gunplay feels good to play with a controller, performance isn't garbage, and crossplay isn't completely broken. Would the console community accept it? Two of the biggest complaints Valorant received when it first released was people misunderstanding what the game was and how hard it was to play it. A lot of people actually thought this was going to be a game similar to something like Overwatch, where people run around, shoot things while throwing fireballs at each other, when it's very much a slow-paced tactical shooter, something not many casual gamers are a fan of these days.
Back to 2008, the game has brought nothing new to the gaming community. She does not have graphics and original gameplay. 0 out of 10, poor copy pasta from other games, and poor realization. The graphics are ugly. I feel like I'm playing a game from the early 2000s. The game is so slow and not dynamic. I mean, it's almost like everyone had the exact same script. You're just seeing in review after review, slow, clunky, boring, bad graphics.
We're also living in a time where gamers just don't want to work for their games anymore. Gamers these days are either too busy with life to learn games or are too lazy and refuse to put the time required, and they blame their lack of ease on things like esports or sweaty tryhards. If you've been on YouTube for the past year, you may have noticed that it's been filled with rants against sweaty tryhards and esports, even going as far as accusing both for ruining gaming as a whole. I guess this allows me to give my own mini rant in this video. What the hell happened to my generation of gamers? I mean, growing up, being good at video games was something you looked up to, something you wanted to do, and something you worked for. Now being good at video games means you're some kind of sweat lowlife that ruined video games. What's funny is that these people that are complaining about sweats in video games are the same people that told me to get good at video games when I was a kid. Well, I got good, I did exactly what you told me to do, so now I'm the bad guy all of a sudden? Like, what? Like, what am I supposed to say? Sorry that I'm better than you at video games? Am I supposed to throw games now just so you could have a better experience? Like, I don't get it. And I'm not doing this every single day of my life. I am someone who is going to nursing school and is doing 12-hour shifts and clinicals, and I am saying this. Seriously, y'all became a bunch of pussies. Anyways, gamers these days want games where you can pick up a controller and just pub stomp a bunch of noobs while having a few beers in their system. One, that's a very unrealistic expectation for multiplayer games, and you'll only disappoint yourself if you keep thinking that way. And Valorant is not that kind of game. You need to, at the very least, learn the layout of the maps, how the weapons work, the player's ability of movement, how much each weapon and ability costs, how the economy in the game works, and how to take advantage of each mechanic to somewhat enjoy the game. Do you really think today's console gamers are gonna look at this and want to play it? Hell, they may even regret wanting this game to come to consoles, since it inspires what many despise these days: getting good at video games. I want to end today's video by asking console gamers one question. After watching this video, would you still want to play Valorant? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Aside from that, I hope you did enjoy the video. Leave a like, subscribe for more content, and I'll talk to you all later.